Hello, weather aficionados and weather wanna-knows and everybody. Good evening to you. It's Wednesday night. That means it's time for the weather show, my favorite night of the week. I mean, it's my favorite work night of the week. Saturday nights are my favorite night right now because we got college football on. We all know how that goes, right? But my favorite work night of the week because we get to do the weather show. And if you're just joining us first time, thank you so much for doing it. And if you're looking at me and going, that guy's trying to grow a beard and he looks terrible. Yes, I know. If you go to my social media, we are doing No Shave November. I'm starting early because it takes me forever to even grow something. But all proceeds go to the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, helping kids with pediatric brain tumors. If you want to check it out, just go to any of my social media. It's on there. I'm going to pin it to the top of the pages too. And if you feel like making a donation, you can. I know everybody's asking for donations, especially this time of year. So if you can't afford it, no worries. Or if you can only give $1 or $5, we'll take it. But every dollar helps to shut down children brain tumors. Is a terrible thing. And Bob and the Showgram used to do this every November. They were radio folks here in the Triangle. Bob since retired, but I want to take up this mantle to help out kids. So that's what this is. I know it looks terrible. There's a reason I'm doing it. All right, let's talk weather tonight, and we will get things started with the three big things on the weather show. First of all, where's the rain? We've only had one day this month, the entire month of October, where we had rain, and we only got 1/100 of an inch. This could go down as one of the top 5 driest Octobers ever. We do have a chance at some sprinkles. We'll talk about that in a moment. Tornado safety. You might be thinking, Don, it's not springtime. We're not seeing tornadoes. I know, but we can actually see tornadoes every month of the year in North Carolina. And tonight's viewer question deals with tornadoes. And finally, what's that in the sky? Our viewer pick this week. We got lots of cool ones last week, and we'll show that to you coming up with the viewer picks. But let's get things started. If you're new to the show, we always start with the forecast. So if you're just here to get the weather, we'll get you the most detailed forecast we really can give you all week because we're not constrained like we are time-wise in a newscast. I can take some time and break it down. But we'll get you your forecast first, and then we've got all kinds of things coming up. Radar tonight, dry. Not much to show you on the First Alert Doppler network. It's going to stay dry tonight into tomorrow. I zoomed it out. This is on our ABC 11 page. There's just not a lot of rain going on right now. We are seeing some showers out towards Cincinnati and Cleveland. This is our radar that we have developed for people who have color blindness or CVD, color vision deficiency. It's always on abc11.com. Now, it's not the zoomed out version. It's only our area. But if we have rain working through, you can always go to abc11.com/weather and check out the color vision deficiency radar. Live look tonight. I thought we'd change it up a little bit. Instead of heading downtown, we're headed to the box yard at RTP. Folks having dinner and beverages. Great night to be outside at the box yard. 70 degrees right now, clear skies, and winds are calm. A live look at satellite radar. We do have a couple of showers off the coast, but not a cloud in the sky around here as high pressure continues to dominate our weather. We zoom it out. You can see some showers here through the Ohio River Valley, and it extends up into upstate New York tonight. That is a cool front we'll talk more about in old school weather, but you may see a few showers out there. Otherwise, high pressure dominates all the way back to the Rocky Mountains, and that means clear skies and lots of them. Forecast for tonight shows temperatures across the region dipping down into the 50s. You may see some patchy fog down toward the coastal plain, not in the Triangle. 58 will be your overnight low in Raleigh, 58 Fayetteville, 56 in Rayford. Normal for this time of year is 47. We're going to be 10 to 12 degrees above average for this time of year. Tomorrow morning, that morning drive, sunshine, lots of it. Temperatures in the 60s. By 10 o'clock, we're up around 70 degrees. By lunchtime, we go to 73 degrees. And then as we head through the day tomorrow, man, it's going to be beautiful again. Not quite as warm as it was today, mid-70s, lots of sunshine. Still pleasant, though, on a north wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's look at temperatures from across the region. If you're watching in Carrboro tomorrow, you'll be in mid-70s, 75 there in Durham, 77 Holly Springs, 75 in Siler City. You'll make 76 in Wendell. You'll top out in the upper 70s from Goldsboro to Clinton. I think you'll hit 80 still tomorrow in Fayetteville, 81 in Lumberton, 77 in Sanford. We go north, 72 Roxboro, Henderson, 74 Lewisburg, 75 Wake Forest, and 76 in Wilson. Your First Alert 7-day forecast powered by AccuWeather. Wall-to-wall sunshine tomorrow. Friday looks great. You're going to Friday night football. Temperatures will be in the 60s, a little warmer than they were last week. Saturday starts off with a lot of sunshine, but we will see clouds building in throughout the day. The only chance of rain we have is Saturday night. After dark and through the overnight, there is the potential to see a few sprinkles. Sunday morning is the RDC Marathon. Our own Bianca Holman will be emceeing that live, and we're a proud sponsor of that. Looks like it will be dry with temperatures in the 50s. We'll stay in the 60s all day. So if you haven't been to the fair and you like it a little cooler, Sunday's the day to go, 63 degrees. Monday, back into the sunshine, 67. Tuesday, 73. And Wednesday, we're in the mid to upper 70s. When we come back, we'll do old school weather where we break down all the fronts and everything you want to see. And we talked to our friends at AccuWeather. This week, they're talking about all things fall foliage. If you've ever wanted to know about fall foliage, especially in North Carolina, where we get some brilliant colors, that's coming up next. Stay with us. And welcome back. It's that time of the night when we do a little old school weather. We call it old school weather because this is how we did weather. You might have tuned into certain channels and watched them just do weather for hours where they break down all the fronts and the highs and lows. And so we like to do the same thing here. First, we're going to talk about the tropical season, where we are. We've been tracking this every week. We're just about here in our tropical season. We've gone way past the peak. That was mid-September. We're on our way down. Notice as we head toward November 1st, there's still sometimes a little surge of tropical systems until we get to December 1st and we officially end the tropical season, but we are on the downhill slide. And the good news is when we look at the entire Atlantic Ocean, even though the remnants of Oscar are kind of up toward Bermuda and out of here, we look at this entire area and we're not expecting any tropical development in the next 7 days. So some very good news. We want those tropical systems to stay away. All right, let's take a look at old school weather and what's going on. We've got lots of frontal boundaries and different things to look at. We'll zoom in first to this cool front that is dropping through Toronto, Buffalo, down into Ohio and western Pennsylvania. It does have a bit of a trough out ahead of it. That's an upper level disturbance that extends from Quebec down to Burlington. That's triggering all showers. They did see some snow in the mountains of upstate New York last week. This is all rain now as this cool front drops in. Now, it is headed toward North Carolina. It doesn't have a lot of really cold air behind it. So we will see the potential for some cooler air tonight into tomorrow as that drops through. And that's why today we were in the 80s in spots. Tomorrow we'll be in the 70s. That front drops through. Usually when a front drops through too, it will trigger showers. This one doesn't have any moisture to work with. It is so dry out there. It's been so dry for the entire month of October that as that runs into the dry air, it's not going to trigger any showers. Maybe a few clouds. That'll be just about it. We head out into the mountains, stationary front setting up across parts of Colorado and back toward the Four Corners region, some high pressure, but relatively quiet weather in the southern Rockies. When you get up into Idaho, though, and then western Montana, this stationary front where the cool air and the warm air are battling, they are triggering snow showers at the higher elevations, and even down into eastern Oregon at the higher elevations, they are seeing some snow showers as well. We go up north. I just want to show this to you. We're not getting any radar data out of Canada. If we were, you would see more in the way of shower activity. But this area of low pressure that's way up here north of Winnipeg, north of Manitoba, this is the cold front that we're watching. It doesn't look like much now, but this will drop through Saturday night. It's going to do two things. One, that cold front is going to run into some moisture, and it's going to bring us a chance at sprinkles. And two, we'll go from the 80s today and possibly up to 80 degrees on Saturday to 60s for the highs and overnight lows back in the 40s. So that cold front is going to be awfully cool as we head into next week. The only advisories we have to show you across the entire nation, and that is great as we come out of severe weather season. We're not seeing any tornado warnings, or we're not seeing any severe thunderstorm warnings, some wind advisories out in parts of Idaho. That is all. If we zoom east, the only other area of showers, that one I showed you from Quebec all the way down into Cincinnati, they're not seeing any severe weather with that, and that's because the weather's just not as dynamic. There's not as big of difference between the cold air and the warm air, so it's not triggering any big showers. There are some showers down in Florida, too, off the coast, eastern coast of Florida, and also down toward Miami. A little bit of a southerly breeze pushing down some showers toward the southern part of Florida, but that is it, and no severe weather down in the peninsula, and that's good news. They're still recovering from the hurricanes earlier this year. Lots of questions coming in about fall foliage. Lots of folks have wanted to know about fall foliage. When does it turn? It usually peaks in our area. It usually peaks the first week of November, but let's get more on it. For that, our own meteorologist Robert Johnson talked with our friends at AccuWeather, all things fall colors.
Some cooler fall temperatures are right around the corner. We can expect to see more fall colors in the trees as well. AccuWeather's Paul Pistola joins us from AccuWeather's Global Weather Center. Paul, good to be with you. How is the outlook for fall foliage looking right now in the Carolinas, and when can we expect to see peak colors?
Well, Robert, it's going to be a little bit delayed as you get outside of the mountains, but I think that as you look toward the mountains, we're already into the peak time of the year. In fact, you see on our graphic right now, the red area, meaning that we are at peak season. So if you're up into this region right now of the state, you're definitely seeing some pretty bright colors. In fact, I checked out some of the webcams. There are some oranges and reds out there. It's actually looking pretty decent in parts of the mountains. Fortunately, we're missing a lot of trees, and we know the reason for that in the southern portions of the mountains around Asheville and those areas. Big gaps where the trees were laid out from Helene that took place. And so, as you get farther into the foothills, it's starting to get going here. We're not at peak yet. As we get into later October, I expect that to be on target. That's the average time that we see peak conditions. We're seeing some color in the Piedmont areas, but the thing is, it's going to be a little bit late getting to our peak, maybe by a week or so. Somewhere in late week 1, week 2 in November will be the best time for viewing. And I don't think it's going to be as bad as we thought, especially in the Piedmont areas. I think we're going to get some of those colors. We're already seeing a few of those colors peeking out, those oranges. So it doesn't look as bad at this point from what it looked like 2 months ago. So that's the good news there.
And Paul, it's been pretty dry over the past few weeks. Yeah. How has that factored into the colors we're seeing now, and how long will the fall foliage stick around this year?
Well, that was actually a good thing that happened here. This dryness that has come here in October, we're struggling to actually get some rainfall in the region, but it's actually going to help out with the fall foliage. If you go back to September, we had 13 inches of rain in Raleigh. That's about 7 inches above the average. And we had a lot of rain in August because of Debbie. And so that didn't look good. It looked bleak. Too much rainfall in the early fall season is not good. It actually kind of brings out duller colors, also can produce mold and insects that can ruin the trees in the viewing. But things have changed a little bit, and it looks like a sign that we're going to see some of those yellows and oranges because of the dryness factor. Now, farther west, of course, things are going to be a little bit worse on the conditions. And if I go back to the forecast right here, you could see definitely we are not looking for some good conditions here in the mountains because of many other effects, not just the rainfall, but the wind effect that took place from Helene first, and then all the flooding that knocked down the trees. And so it hasn't been a good setup for a good fall season there. But farther east, things are looking much better.
So our dry spell certainly could help our leaf peeping. And we know that Hurricane Helene wrecked the fall foliage in many mountain towns in western North Carolina. You mentioned it in part because there's not as many trees around. So how big was the impact, and how much did the loss of tourism factor into AccuWeather's estimate for the total damage and economic loss from Hurricane Helene?
This is going to be a big impact, not just for this year as well. It's going to go on beyond that, of course. And the thing about it is a lot of these towns and cities rely on this time of the year for fall peaking. And so, again, we're looking at a situation here where, you know, they rely on this to get them through the winter and the early spring as far as their local economies go, and that's not going to be there this year, and it may not be there until we recover. There's this huge gaps in the woods where trees were knocked down or flooding took place and wiped them out, and it's going to take a while. So that part of the, you know, the mountains are going to probably take a hit going further. Not just those numbers probably don't even indicate the years after as well. So I mean, it's going to be a while till we see some recovery there. But Helene did make a huge impact in that part of the country, and Debbie also bringing that extra rain, also you know, causing some flooding situation, that also had an impact as well.
We are certainly thinking of the folks there, Paul. And one more question for you while we've got you. Studies show that summers are getting hotter, the growing season lasting longer, and the first frost date is arriving later in the Triangle compared to 50 years ago. So how do you expect climate change to impact the future of fall foliage in the Carolinas?
Well, yes, you're exactly right, Robert. I mean, the climate change thing is definitely having an impact as far as temperatures go. The frost situation, our average frost is around the start of November here in the Raleigh area, probably going to be later on coming, and the warm temperatures causing some delays. And it kind of throws everything out of sync because the loss of daylight combined with cooler nights is what brings out those oranges and red colors that we like to see. If you're waiting for those cooler nights longer, and you're not getting those, what we call the sugars to develop that produce those colors in the leaves, that timing can be off, and that window of you know, checking out the leaves is going to be shortened. And so it is definitely going to have an effect on the fall foliage situation. Also, extreme type of weather, droughts, and it can cause definitely stress on the trees, especially at any time of the year, and also the heat factor as well. So definitely these extremes that are caused by climate change or have some input from climate change can have a big effect on what we're seeing down here in the Carolinas and also for other parts of the country as well.
Paul, you always make us smarter. It's a pleasure. Paul Postolic from AccuWeather. Thank you, Paul.
All right, thanks, Robert and Paul, for that update. And yeah, we're starting to see some colors show up in our area. I've got one tree in my neighborhood that's just gorgeous, and the rest are all still green. Again, as Paul mentioned, probably the first week of November when we see the peak around this part of North Carolina. When we come back, it's viewer mail, and this week, even though the weather's been so quiet, we're going to talk weather safety and tornadoes. That's coming up next. And welcome back. It is time of that. It's the time of, I'll get it out. Come on. Let's go, Big Weather. Welcome back. It's the time of the night when we answer viewer mail. And thank you to all of you who email me questions. Tonight's viewer mail comes to us from Trey in Rocky Mount. And Trey says, are we finally done with tornado season? Of course, Rocky Mount had that terrible tornado just last month. Are we done with tornado season? Not really. It's not as bad as this time of year as we see. But if we look back at tornadoes by month across the state of North Carolina, notice there have been tornadoes in every month of the year. We're in October, so since 1950 through 2005, that's the latest study, so it doesn't include the last 19 years, but through 1950 through 2005, that 55-year period, October had 19 tornadoes, November had 16, 7 in December, and January had 6. In February we had 9. Then we surged. March to May is when we see our biggest threat, but sometimes we see a secondary push in September. So unfortunately, no, even though the weather's been quiet and dry, Trey, over the next several months, there's still the possibility of any thunderstorm firing a tornado. That's why tonight is a good time for us to talk about tornado safety. And you may have seen this graphic. We usually put it up when there's a tornado. And it's what to do if there's a tornado and you're under a tornado warning. You want to stay away from the second story of your house, all right? Most damage occurs on the top floor of buildings. The higher up you are, the closer you are to the dangerous winds. So you go to the lowest part of your house. Now, in North Carolina, a lot of houses do not have basements. Some do. But with the sandy soil, sometimes they don't have it. So what do you want to do? You want to avoid windows. You want to go to the lowest floor. You want to go to an interior room like a closet or a bathroom. You want to get low and you want to cover your head. You want to put as many walls as you can between the outside and you. So if you're in the middle of your house like this one, we've got the walls of the closet they're in, but you actually have walls to the outside too. There's several walls to the outside. Tornado damage is not like the Wizard of Oz. It doesn't just pick up a house and drop it on a witch. Most tornado damage occurs from flying debris. And that's why now meteorologists are recommending that when you go to your safe spot, you should have a pair of shoes on and you should have a helmet. If you have a bicycle helmet, an old football helmet, something that will protect you, protect your head, because number one injury comes from flying glass and flying debris. So after the tornado hits the house, you want to have your shoes on because you don't want to be barefoot and walking across broken glass. You want to have that helmet on if you have one because it will protect your head from flying debris. Those are things you can do to stay safe during a tornado. And we show this every time. And it's make the plan now. Weather for the next week is quiet. We do not have any tornado threats. So now is the time that you need to be thinking about what do I need to do? And I've got this question so much that I went ahead and made a graphic about it. I don't live in a house. I live in an apartment. What can I do in the apartment to stay safe? Well, you want to go to the lowest floor if you can. If you can and you have time, get down to the lowest floor because, again, the upper floors see the most damage. You want to move inward, put as many walls between you and the outside, just like you do with the house. If you can't go to the lowest floor, you're safer going to an interior hallway than actually staying in your apartment with all those windows. You want to protect your head with a blanket, pillows, a helmet if you can, and you want to wear your shoes. Those are things you can do. So it's very similar to what you see in a house, but you want to move to the interior part of the apartment building. If you can go lower and you have time to go lower, that's the best place you can go. Trey, I hope that answers your question for you. We are not done with tornado season. Unfortunately, around here, every month of the year, we could see tornadoes. All right. Let's change gears a little bit. I saw the story today. I want to make sure and get it in here for our Climate Ready series along with our partners at ABC News. Now, cities across the country are switching over to electric vehicles, and that's faster than ever. It's in an effort to combat climate change. The city of Raleigh really has been a trailblazer in this movement. 15 years ago, Raleigh was one of the first 3 American cities to pilot an electric vehicle program, and the city's now looking to expand in a big way. Elena Athens shows us why this move is so critical.
This Ford pickup truck is already rolling around Raleigh roads. There's no engine under the hood, instead another storage area. The truck runs solely on electric, and once fully charged, it can clock up to 240 miles. The city is looking to put more of these EVs into rotation. Raleigh, which has been named a Bloomberg Sustainable City, is working to electrify its 2,500 vehicle fleet, as well as equipment like lawnmowers and bucket trucks.
We've gotten several $1 million worth of grants over time for electric vehicles and equipment, and we're still pursuing more.
Duke University's think tank, the Nicholas Institute, is researching EV use and the demand for charging stations.
Since 2020, essentially EV charging stations have doubled.
Trey Gowdy's research shows here in the Southeast, the average number of charging ports was up 28% from 2023. There will soon be more options on major highways, thanks to the federal government.
All states have been allocated funding to install EV charging stations every 50 miles along interstate corridors.
However, as our climate changes and climatologists warn that storms are becoming more intense, all of this infrastructure there could be damaged by floodwaters and people could be left immobile. Power was knocked out for days in western North Carolina because of Hurricane Helene and the extensive flooding. A desperate EV driver there took to Reddit begging for help where he could charge his car, explaining the need to get potable water and fuel for a generator. Raleigh says it's going to weigh where technology stands and the infrastructure that's in place as it rolls out the EV plan.
Pursuit vehicles, for example, we may not be ready just yet. And so that's part of this transition process is looking at where the technology is and what's ready for the uses.
There also is some savings associated with this switch. The city estimates over the next 10 years, maintenance will be 50% cheaper and they'll save $17,000 in fuel. In Raleigh, Elena Athens, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Elena, and welcome to the Weather Show. When we come back, we will, of course, have your coffee forecast, and we'll wrap things up here on the Wednesday edition of the Weather Show. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take a look at the viewer pick this week, and this one is so cool. Nick Caput snapped this in Durham last week. I say snapped. He actually left his camera open for 15 seconds to get the comet as it was passing by. The comet, I'm not even going to try and say the name of it. It was a big, long name. It's the first time it passed by here in 80,000 years. And if it returns, it'll be back in 80,000 years, and I won't be around to screw the name up. But the same night he took this, I went out and looked for it because you could see it originally last Sunday and Monday. I went out and looked for it by Thursday. I couldn't see it with the naked eye, but he was able to grab that great picture. So, Nick, thanks so much for sending that in. If you have a picture, we would love to see it. abc11.com/share. abc11.com/share. That's your way to send pictures to us here in the Weather Center. We end every show with a cup of coffee forecast as you head out tomorrow. Temperatures will be in the 60s. Warmest morning we'll see over the next few days. You'll want the coffee, nice warm drink later in the week. As we head into the weekend. But tomorrow, maybe an iced coffee as you get near 70 by 10 o'clock. That is going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for spending part of your Wednesday with us. We love having you here, and we love doing the weather show. If you have questions, remember abc11.com/share, or you can always find me on abc11.com. Thanks for spending part of your week with us, and we'll see you next Wednesday for the Weather Show. Have a great week.